Join with me as we take this time to move into our inner room, as we retreat from our outer world and find that space within us where we can hear most clearly that still small voice, that place within us that invigorates us, that reminds us who we are and whose we are. And so I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so, or to gaze upon something gently before you. To take a breath in and release. In and release. Envisioning on each in-breath, you are breathing in the vitality of life itself. And on each out-breath, releasing fully that which needs to be released. And as we move into the space of our hearts, I invite you to allow the words I speak to be the words of your own heart. And if there is anything that I say that does not fit for you, let it simply roll off of you. We know how to do that in unity. We do not need to resist or reject or delete. We simply allow those concepts, those ideas to roll off of us and to embrace that which does enhance our individual belief system. And so moving into this space, I speak for each one of us. I am a beautiful expression of the divine light. I am a unique, unrepeatable expression of love. I move into the space to bless myself with the remembering of who I am and whose I am. And in this space, I rest in God. I rest in love. I allow my mind to quiet itself and to simply be, to bask in this beautiful essence, in the awareness of the divine, to allow this essence to be a balm upon my soul. I rest in God. I allow myself to withdraw from whatever is happening in the outside world, knowing that I am gifting the world with my return to God, my return to love. And in this space of my heart being open, compassionate, aware, inclusive, I invite into this space my dear ones, my friends and my family, and invite them to bask in the same peace, the same love, as we all rest in God. We turn from the unrest of the outer world to the peace within, to the gift of light and love, the gift I am. And in this space, we can feel the energy of healing, the vibration of healing. This vibration is healing whatever part of us needs to be healed. I breathe in this healing. I allow it to move throughout my entire being, and in doing so, I see that same healing love and light moving through those dear ones that I have brought here with me. We are all enveloped in the love of God, in the peace of God, in the rest that God provides. I rest in God. I rest in divine light. I rest in the energy of all that is, all that ever has been or will come to be. I rest in universal love. I rest. I feel a glow from this time, from this experience, from this simple turning within. I feel a peace within me that has settled my soul, that has grounded me, that has allowed me to feel balanced and open and one with spirit, one with all of life, one with the dear ones that I have brought into the space with me. I rest in this knowing that we are one. We are all one. We are all one with the one and one with each other. I delight in this knowing, in this remembering, in this recognition, in this truth. I delight in this day, for this is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, and I am glad. I am rejuvenated. I am refreshed. I feel anew. And so it is. Good morning, Unity of Madison. I'm Reverend Daybree Thoms, and it's my joy to join with you again this morning. Today we are looking at the concept of finding unity in major religions in our world. Unity minister John Paul Roach has authored a new publication called Unity and World Religions, from which I draw heavily in a series of talks which I've completed. Reverend Roach is a native of Wales who serves as a unity minister since 1988. That's 34 years, so I bow to him. What is different in this book from other books I have studied on world religions is in this publication, Reverend Roach reviews our 5 basic unity principles and explores where they may be reflected in other faith traditions, finding unity in world religions. Now, you might ask yourself, or you might ask me, why? Why do we want to do that? And that is a most excellent question. And the answer is simple: unity. The more we can find our commonalities in the world, the easier it is to recognize our oneness with the world. The less fear when we encounter differences, the more present and free and safe we feel to come into contact with those differences without the complications of fear. The less fear or resistance we feel, the more free we are to honor those differences. We don't feel threatened by them, not feeling compelled to make those differences wrong. Simply accepting them as what they are, their differences, their variances, their choices. They are other faith traditions. And when we are grounded in our faith, there is no one and nothing that can be a threat to our foundation. Our roots are deep and our branches are supple. We're able to move gently with the breeze, not breaking in a storm. Remembering that we are still growing, each one of us still spreading those roots, still nurturing our limbs and our leaves and our buds and our flowers. Remember, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity movement, always said that they had not created something new, but instead had discovered teachings already present in our world. Myrtle Fillmore, when talking about the healing of her body, said, "I want everybody to know about this beautiful, true law and to use it. It is not a new discovery, but when you use it and get the fruits of health and harmony, it will seem new to you, and you will feel that it is your own discovery." We are not seeking syncretism, trying to merge different religions, cultures, or schools of thought. This is not an amalgamation. It's rather a celebration of diversity and a celebration of the many ways that we are the same. It's a kinship with all the peoples of our world. It's unity, not uniformity. That desire to seek connections, to find some element of sameness or familiarity, is evident within us as humans. Perhaps it is a seeking to find comfort, to establish safety. Whatever is at its source, it is one of the finest parts of ourselves, seeking to connect with others. Let's say you're in a conversation with a stranger. You begin talking with them because you're a friendly person and you enjoy meeting people and connecting with them. You share, they share, you share, they share. And somewhere in that sharing, you find a source of commonality. Oh, you're from Utah. My sister lived in Salt Lake City. Or, oh, you made a trip to Spain. I visited Spain several years ago. Or, oh, my cousin went to that university. Or even, oh, I've always wanted to go there. You find a connection is what we do, something to link yourself to that person. You might refer to this as a small world when you find those connections. More recently, this person-to-person connection became referred to as 6 degrees of separation. The idea that all people are 6 or fewer social connections away from each other. As a result, a chain of friend of a friend statements can be made to connect any 2 people in a maximum of 6 steps. And we revel in those connections. I invite you to look up a Denmark commercial called All That We Share. Just Google All That We Share TV2. It was a very clever advertisement that shows how we are all connected even when we think we are not. It cleverly shows how we label ourselves and put ourselves in boxes, but forget that we all have a common experience in life, something in common, that we have far more things in common with others than differences. It also shows how to love and accept people, how this naturally flows amongst all people once we realize we don't have to maintain the artificial boundaries of imaginary boxes. It's a very powerful 3 minutes, all that we share. The commercial that they created starts by saying, we live in a time where we quickly put people in boxes. And they show like a gymnasium with wide white tape that has created large boxes on the floor. And they go on to say it's easy to put people in boxes. Then there's us and them. And the first group they invite in there's the high earners. And these are mostly men in suits, and they all go stand in a box. And then there's those that are just getting by, and these people are not as nicely dressed and don't look quite as confident. They stand in a box. Then there's those we trust, an incoming group of young nurses in their uniforms with name tags on, and they go into a box. And those we try to avoid, and these are rough-looking guys, rough and tumble, tattoos, they go in a box. Then there's what they call the New Danes, and those are the foreigners. And you can tell by the way that they're dressed that they are foreigners. And then those that have always been here. People from the countryside, those are country folk. Those who've never seen a cow, those are city folk. The religious coming in with their crosses. And the self-confident, and those are mostly young women in sports workout gear. And then the narrator says, welcome. I'm going to ask you some questions today, and some of them may be a bit personal, but I hope you will answer them as honestly as you can. The first question is, who in this room was the class clown? And there's some laughter and smiling. People leave their boxes to come into the center, those who were the class clown. And then they go back. Who are the step parents? Another group of people come and meet in the middle. And then the questions continue, and each time there's people from each of the boxes gathering in the middle, in the center of the room, and nodding to one another, recognizing that they have this commonality. Who believes in life after death? Who's seen a UFO? Who loves to dance? Who's been bullied? And then they ask a very sensitive question. And we who've bullied others, people honestly moved to the center of the room, and among them was a young boy. You could tell he was so uncomfortable, so embarrassed by the fact that he had done this. And you could see others reaching out to him in compassion. Who are the brokenhearted? Who are madly in love? Who feel lonely? And this was quite a large group. And we acknowledge the courage of others. Who's found the meaning of life? Who's saved a life? And then it finishes with, and then there's all of us who just love Denmark. We are all surrounded by differences. Yes, even in the room where you are, we find subtle differences in our belief systems. But even in the room where you are, in your church, differences are not a problem to be solved or erased, but something to be embraced. I'm a unity minister, so I teach unity. I will always teach unity. Some of unity's teachings may be contrary to some of your belief systems. I'm not here to convert you. I'm also not here to dilute unity's teachings to make them more palatable to everyone or to satisfy all the various faith traditions. I teach unity, and whatever commonalities we find together, we celebrate. And whatever differences we allow, we make room for, we embrace. That does not mean that I'm going to adopt your belief system, nor does it mean you're going to adopt mine. We are here on this planet to learn and to grow. And we do that when we open our hearts and our minds to learn something new. Not looking to correct someone, to let them know how wrong they are, or to inform them, which is simply a more polite way of telling someone they're wrong, but to consider without feeling threatened. The world as a whole has become increasingly more secular in the last few decades. However, religion remains an integral part of many people's lives, as 84% of the world's population identifies with a religious group. Religions differ greatly on the surface, when looking at the various practices and rituals and traditions and the relationships with or approaches to God or the divine. But as we explore each one, we find commonalities. Aldous Huxley, who was an English writer and philosopher in the early to mid-1900s, was widely acknowledged as one of the foremost intellectuals of his time. He was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Literature 9 times. He was a pacifist and grew interested in philosophical mysticism and universalism, addressing these subjects in a work that he called the Perennial Philosophy. That was in 1945. And in this work, it illustrates commonalities between Western and Eastern mysticism, and he called commonalities perennial philosophy. It is that golden thread of mystical understanding, a direct, intuitive awareness of the truth, truth with a capital T, truth that is not confined by any religion or faith tradition, something that you believe deep within your soul. It's a knowing, an inner knowing. You don't know how you know, but you do. It's that golden thread, that divine connection. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore were also seekers of a deeper meaning. Myrtle came from a strict Methodist background, and Charles was a combination of no formal church education, growing up on a Native American land and later sometimes accompanying his mother to the Presbyterian church. But they both knew the Bible. Myrtle and Charles were on a mission to find that deeper meaning, studying the works of Emma Curtis Hopkins and Warren Felt Evans. Myrtle and Charles were both present for the very first gathering of the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago in 1893, which was an attempt to create a global dialogue of faiths. Charles especially was intrigued by both the Hindu and Buddhist teachings. Religions differ greatly on the surface, but when we begin to dig deeper, we also find commonalities, the golden thread, that divine connection that runs through religion and all of humanity, which has been interpreted in thousands of ways and continues to be interpreted in thousands more. I close with an excerpt from this little book. It's by Marcus Bach. It's called The Unity Way. Before I dive in, let me share a little bit about Dr. Marcus Bach. He was trained for the ordained ministry in Mission House College and Seminary in Plymouth, Wisconsin. After serving in ministry for a time, he returned to school and received his MA and PhD from the University of Iowa's prestigious Interfaith School of Religion. There he taught about little-known religious sects, which is how he found unity. He authored 27 books, including Major Religions of the World, Had You Been Born in Another Faith, The Unity Way, this little book, The World of Serendipity, and The Power of Total Living. At one point in his life, Dr. Bach set out to meet the 5 people of his time who he felt best exemplified the teachings of Jesus Christ in their lives. He traveled 40,000 miles in pursuit of this aim, interviewing Helen Keller, Pope Pius XII, Albert Schweitzer, Teresa Newman, and Shoghi Effendi. Dr. Bach is recognized as a leading authority on the world's religion and intercultural relations, and he loved unity. He spent time with Papa Charlie at Unity Village and respected the work and the foundational beliefs of our unity movement. And this is what he has to say. For unity knows, as I know, that above and beyond the things that separate various religions are truths, which unite them, and that while many groups are divided by non-essentials, the great essentials are being discovered, often outside the bounds of the institutionalized, traditional denominations. He's talking about us. The God of unity is so great, he says, that he can never express himself fully in one denomination or compress himself into one exclusive sect. He is a prism through which the one light is refracted. He is the sea from which and into which the rivers of thought are flowing. He is love eternal, out of which love in its myriad forms expresses itself. He is God, and being God, he is the one presence, the one power. I am reminded again that you can be a good student of unity and still worship in other faiths. For the object of worship is always God is principle, God is love, God is truth. You can sit yoga fashion if you wish, or enter the satori of Zen and say your prayers and be a unity follower. You can walk the eightfold path of the Buddha without straying from unity teaching and beliefs. You can bow 5 times towards Mecca and still be unity conscious. You can stand before the tomb of your ancestors, as does the Confucianist and the Taoist. You can say a prayer of gratitude for this influence and heritage of a departed loved one without denying what unity believes. You can sit before the sacred fire of the Parsis and gaze into the holy flames, if the Parsi priest will let you, without losing your unity point of view. You can stand with the Jew over the holy Torah, or walk with the Shintoist through his sacred groves, or chant an affirmation with the Hindu on the banks of the Ganges. You can do all these things and still be a student of unity, because there is within you a living flame of understanding that warms you with the knowledge that the Spirit of God is one Spirit. As the Christ becomes greater to you in unity, the founders and teachers of other faiths also become greater. And the greater they become, the greater the Christ becomes. This is true of your estimate of all prophets when you know the prophet Jesus Christ. Unity understands this and lives by it as an expression of truth. With no need to be right or to fear the beliefs of others, we move along our path, our own unique journey, whatever our faith traditions may be. We honor our brothers and sisters in their traditions of faith. I invite you to consider exploring more deeply our shared beliefs, uncovering some of our roots, stretching our wings, learning a bit more about the faith traditions of others, and celebrating all, finding our 5 basic unity principles among the major religions of the world. Let us each continue to find unity expressed in our lives as us, as we live and move and have our being. And so it is. And so it is.